Good evening. The time is 6:30. It is Tuesday, August 23rd. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Timmons.
Present.
Mata.
Present.
McCall.
Here.
Guerra.
Here.
James. Chase.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Next, minutes. 3A, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes for August 9th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Commissioner Timmons, seconded by Commissioner Chase. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion passes. Next, item 4, citizen comments. At this time, any members of the public who would like to speak are welcome to. We ask that you come up to the front, you state your name for the record, you fill out a citizen comments form, and you limit your time to 3 minutes. Does anyone who would like to speak during citizen comments, you may come up now. Seeing none, I will close citizen comments. Citizen comments is now closed. Next, item 5, consent. We have consent agenda items A through C.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
motion to approve consent items A through C.
I second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Commissioner Chase, seconded by Vice Chair McCall. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion passes. Next, item 6, consider and possible action. If there is no objection, staff has requested that we move 6C up to the beginning. I'm going to call that one first unless there's any objections. Okay. Item number 6C. Consider request to allow overhead electrical lines to provide power for certain portions of Kyle Wastewater Treatment Plant, Section 50-1, utilities to be installed underground. Yes.
Good evening. Good evening, Commission. My name is Tim Sanford, Treatment Operations Manager. City of Kyle Public Works is asking for an exception to be made to Ordinance 1095 for the wastewater treatment facility to have overhead power lines installed at that location. As you see on your screen in the green highlighted section, that is a proposed overhead line, and then the burgundy kind of red line going off into the treatment facility. And actually, I can do this here. So in this area right here, that is proposed underground lines. The reason we are asking for this exception is for the betterment of the city of Kyle. The cost versus underground versus overhead, we're looking at approximately $350,000 to run this line underground. For the cost to do this overhead line is around $50,000. That's the cost of the city. That was not established in the scope of this project. It was later added at a later time, so we're handling this through a change order. There are some other items associated with running wires underground, some maintenance issues that we would like to try to avoid. The length of what that would be could potentially cause something that's essential to our operations to go down and be down for some time if we had to make repairs to underground lines. I've got several other slides here just to try to give you an example of what the surrounding area does look like. The highlighted yellow areas are existing overhead lines that are in the area. Let's do this to make sure. This area here is what I'm proposing to have overhead lines be installed. And then again, this area here is what will be underground lines in our proposal. And again, just another overview of the site itself. The highlighted portions are basins and clarifiers that are for future expansions, just so you know what the site is to look like, at its full expanded point in our current projected plans. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have about what we're asking for.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You said that there are existing overhead power lines along the front end of that?
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry about that. There's existing power lines, overhead power lines along the front edge of that property?
Yes, sir, and I don't know if this is the best map, or if this is the best map to show to represent that. So this just yellow highlighted section, hopefully y'all can see that all along here. This is all currently overhead power lines.
Okay,
This subdivision right here, this being Waterleaf subdivision.
right, that kind of changes my view on this, because initially when I read this and saw that the comment was that it didn't negatively impact the aesthetics, and I disagree with that, because I think the overhead power lines absolutely do, as opposed to underground. However, and I was concerned about the neighborhood and, you know, throwing something up that they didn't have previously, but if there are power lines there, that kind of changes the front for me, because I was gonna say, if there weren't, I was planning to oppose this, but as a fact that they're already there, and this is just a continuation, that kind of modifies my opinion considerably. So,
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Chase.
What's the run? What's the linear feet for the proposed?
So the proposed run, which is, there we go. This section here, just for overhead power lines, I believe it's approximately 770 feet. I don't know what this underground line is. Well, sorry, I'm messing with you. I don't know the approximate footage on this underground line that runs from here to the dewatering facility. Actually, I do know, it's 305 feet, which is shown on this exhibit here.
So on your, I mean, there's obviously a big cost difference here. I don't think I can ask that question, so I won't. All right, that was it.
No, it's fine.
I just wanted to know the run length.
Did you have a question? Okay. Thank you. If there's no more questions for staff, would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Mata, seconded by Vice Chair McCall. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay. All right. Let's do a roll call vote.
Timmons?
Aye.
Mata?
Aye.
McCall?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Chase?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, I'm going to go back to item 6A now. Item 6A, consider request to construct retail buildings consisting of 7,506 square feet, Lot 4A, and 7,034 square feet, Lot 5A, located at 5120 South FM 1626 at the southwest corner of FM 1626 and Marketplace Avenue within the I-35 zoning overlay district. Kyle Crossing multi-tenant retail building, Lot 4A, and Lot 5A, conditional use permit, CUP-22-0061. Ms. Sharp.
Kayla Sharp, city planner for the record. And just to start out, we just had a little error in that, and it is not within the I-35 overlay, but the development agreement requires that CUPs be submitted for this development. So this is a conditional use permit for building elevations within the Kyle Marketplace development. It is at the southwest corner of 1626 and Marketplace Avenue. They have two retail buildings that they are going to construct with materials consisting primarily of brick veneer, cement plaster, wood paneling, and some other appropriate architectural features. And so this one on the screen should be for Lot 4A. The front on this one is mostly, I believe, the brick veneer and cement plaster. And then they have some wood siding details and more wood siding on the back. And the front of these will be facing 1626. And then this one is for Lot 5A. This one is primarily the cement plaster and wood siding on the front. with some more architectural features on the sides and in the back. This one will also be facing FM 1626. Staff has reviewed these for compliance with the development agreement that is in place, and they do comply with the agreement, and we recommend approval. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
motion to approve item 6A.
Second that motion.
Thank you. It has been moved by Commissioner Che, seconded by Commissioner Mata. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next, item 6B. Consider a request to develop a 4.516 acre tract and construct approximately 6,400 square feet convenience store with gasoline pumps for property located within the I-35 overlay district. TXB Kyle C Store, conditional use permit, CUP-22-0058. Ms. Sharp.
Okay, we originally presented this one to the commission back in July, and there was some discussion on adding more architectural features to the side facing FM 150. Staff has discussed back and forth with the architects, and they had decided to essentially mirror and flip the building so that the covered patio and the rainwater collection will be on the side facing FM 150. So it's essentially just flipped as opposed to what it was before. And so staff feels that this adequately addresses the comments that were made, and we would recommend approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. It has been moved by Commissioner Mata. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Timmons. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, sir.
I guess it was a pretty simple flip around. So I'm glad they came back to the table with something different, even though it's the same. But you know, it's definitely a lot cheaper than redesigning that whole side. So
Yeah, I had concerns about what it would look like from 150, and I know there were comments made about keeping the seating on the other side to protect it from the street, but I still do think this is a positive move forward compared to what we had the last time. So I am in favor of the motion. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, item 6D. Consider an amendment to Section 53-1138, Section 53-1139, and Section 53-1140 for purposes of updating the nonconforming use and structure ordinance in the city of Kyle, Hays County, Texas. There is a public hearing on this item. If there's anyone who would like to speak, you may come up now. We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes, you state your name for the record, and that you fill out a citizen comments form. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Atkinson.
Will Atkinson, Interim Director of Planning for the record. Before you, we have a complete code rewrite of our legal nonconformity code. If you look at the current one that's in these 3 sections, it's pretty vague. It's just essentially thrown in there to say that we can account for this, and if any situations come up, you deal with them as best as you possibly can. In the last 6 months or so, there's been a couple of, or even closer to a year now, there's been a couple of situations from a legal nonconformity standpoint that had concerned City Council, and they gave us direction to work with our legal team to completely update and fully replace our legal nonconformity code. And this is the result of that. This is code compliant with state law. and all the case law that's happened since our legal nonconformity sections were put in place in 2003. And so it completely reflects that and provides a process for us to establish them in an official manner if someone comes in to apply, so they can keep preserving that. It also provides a significantly robust protections for residential uses that are legal nonconformities. As part of the as part of our job in the planning department, we frequently have to work with property owners for them to bring their properties into compliance and what have you. When it's commercial, it's usually pretty easy to work with them on, and they're there to make a profit and everything, so they go and bring it up to code. They want it to look nice and everything like that. When it comes to residential, we have to be especially careful because those are people's homes. And so that was one of the big focuses that City Council wanted us to focus on whenever we were drafting this, or legal did a bulk of the work, and we just looked it over to make sure that it made sense from our perspective. And so that's why there's a significant number of exceptions from a residential standpoint built into this. But this is the ordinance in front of you. We support it. Legal's done a great job. And if you have any questions for me, be sure to ask.
Are there any questions for staff? Okay. No, I was appreciative of your guys' work on this. Are there any motions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
motion to approve item 6D.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Chase, seconded by Commissioner Timmons. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next, item 6E. Consider an amendment to section 11-162, section 11-175, section 176, and section 11-177 for the purpose of updating the food truck ordinance in the city of Kyle, Hayes County, Texas. There is a public hearing for this item as well. If there's anyone who would like to speak on this item, you may come up now. We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes, that you state your name for the record, and that you fill out a comments form. Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public forum. Next, Mr. Atkinson.
And if we do decide to have significant discussion on this, I will say I provided some direction to Kayla, but she actually carried the bulk of this ordinance the way it's currently written too. So it may be that she can actually explain things a little bit better than me in this case. So, but yes, Will Atkinson, Interim Director of Planning for the record. The purpose of this was also directed as part of the City Council's visioning process they did earlier this year. They wanted to fully update our food truck ordinance to make sure that we weren't being overly burdensome on our food truck operators that like to come to Kyle. So essentially what it currently stands is it falls into two camps. So you have mobile food vendors and well, actually, it's 3 camps. Mobile food vendors, which is 4 hours or less on site, and you have to get a permit for. Like if you're stopping at a HOA park to sell some Kona ice or whatever. Between 4 hours and 12 months, which is a temporary food vendor where you can be on site for like just down here at the end of the block. And you have to have restrooms associated with it. And there's actually a lot of restrictions related to that. And then we also have food court allowances where you put in the permanent infrastructure where it's essentially the easiest way to think about it is it's an RV park for food trucks. So you got your slots, you go in there, you park in there, you hook up to electrical, and you have some parking spaces dedicated for each slot there. You have a permanent restroom facility. Maybe there's a little outdoor stage or whatever, so everybody can enjoy it from a massing perspective in a food truck density. So you have your choices. With these amendments, we've actually pared it down to 2. So it's 12 months or less, or food trucks, the food courts, excuse me. And the biggest things that we've changed about it are related to a reduction in required parking. We wanted to be more equitable as food trucks generally. It's a step into a more permanent brick and mortar kind of store later on down the line if that's something that the food truck operator is interested in. But food trucks they have a significantly less expense to develop than, say, a Chick-fil-A or a Chili's or whatever. So, and parking is an expense that is fairly significant. So we wanted to make sure it was equitable in that standpoint. Increased flexibility relating to where a food truck may be placed on a parcel. Right now, for instance, we require you can't be any closer than 50 feet to what's the carriageway of a street, the lane for traffic. But in some cases, that's not even a thing. Like, you should be able to pull the food truck up to the property line, even whether you want to face into it, you have the window facing in, or facing out onto the sidewalk, assuming there's sufficient sidewalk, and that would be part of our review as well. Also, in how close you can space food trucks, how long they can be in one location, provided there's sufficient review from staff and what have you. And a little bit more robust fire code requirements. And then also an increased number of food trucks allowed in a food truck court. Right now, I can't remember the exact metric offhand, but it's between 150 and 300 feet spacing between food trucks in a food truck court, which is completely designed with all the infrastructure where it doesn't need that. And so we reduced it down to about approximately 2,000 square feet per food truck of a space that they need, which includes parking, a couple spaces or a couple of picnic tables and what have you, so that all that they can fit it in there. So the whole goal is just to make it better, make it to function better. So that's everything I have. We recommend that y'all vote to approve it. Did I miss anything?
Yes, sir. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Chase.
So you mentioned more robust fire requirements. Is that outside of this ordinance? Because I'm seeing a paragraph about safety, and it's just talking about how the fire marshal, building code, et cetera, may require additional, but there really isn't any additional requirements listed in here.
Bear with me just a moment.
So it's 11,175.
H, is that what it is?
Yeah, H.
Related to B1B. Is that what you're asking for, 11,176?
So in section 11-176, it discusses the acceptable locations for food trucks and 20 feet from any permanent structure, minimum of 10 feet between each food truck pad site. That is the fire safety. So it falls under that section.
Okay. I remember us having a discussion in the past about that. So I just want to make sure that was sticking in there. Okay. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Okay. The other part of it, the non-food court, the mobile version, you said you put them together.
Correct.
So it's two different groups. So is it that because the one that was less than 4 hours did not require restroom facilities, and so now it's anyone less than 12 months doesn't require restroom facilities?
They still do, or they still will, but there's, for unique circumstances, staff can waive certain requirements if it's found applicable, found necessary. The reason why we kind of combined the 4 hours, those two items for 12 months, from a permitting standpoint, they're effectively the same. It's just we can provide, put conditions on the approval through the permitting process of this newer ordinance. maybe it's appropriate. And it's something that we consider when we're coordinating with the applicant as well. You know, maybe they're like, okay, I really don't need to be there more than 6 hours. This is a one-off event kind of thing. So we can put conditions on it as appropriate, so.
And then for the actual court, the mobile court, what zoning is that in?
That part didn't change. It's still RS, CBD1, CBD2, and the E zoning districts.
Okay,
So that's a holdover from the existing one.
okay. Any other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to approve item 6E.
Second that?
Thank you. It has been moved by Commissioner Che, seconded by Commissioner Mata. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 7, general discussion. 7A, discussion only regarding Planning and Zoning Commission request for future agenda items. Are there any commissioners who would like to have an item on a future agenda?
I have a question about, I don't know if this is the right time to say it, but some of these items we discussed a while ago, and then one of them was the restroom in downtown. That sort of, has that been discussed any further? Having a restroom like that, if you were at the park, you'd be able to access?
It's been discussed internally. With the 104 South Burleson project that's happening, that's in the very beginning of design stage, right across the street from the senior center. The architects, BGK architects, they're very aware that we're looking for something that's publicly accessible on the ground floor. The current idea is to have I wouldn't call it a paseo, but a pass through at the ground level to get to the back rear yard where maybe there's going to be some gardens or whatever. So that's the resolution on that potentially that we're pretty gung-ho about. But other than that, from the solution on a CIP perspective specifically, we don't have a solution at this time. We will coordinate in relating to food trucks as best as possible to try to make sure that there's adequate publicly accessible restrooms as well. Occasionally they don't need them, but for the most part they will. So does that answer your questions?
Yes, I think so. I wanted to just keep bringing it up.
Sure.
As much as I can. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other items you'd like to see on future agendas? Okay, going to move on to item number 8, staff report. 8A, staff report by William Atkinson, interim director of planning. Mr. Atkinson.
Thank you. So we have, I believe we have everybody registered who wanted to go to the state conference in October for APA in El Paso. 18th through the 22nd, I believe, is when we're heading out there and coming back. So you should have got a registration notification today. If you haven't, check your email. So we're going to continue moving forward with some minor code amendments, but we're going to be bringing back the M2, M3 here in relatively short order. I also have some ideas. I need to still vet it, though, at administration for a couple other ordinances related to ADUs, and there might be a couple other items as well. But we'll have to notice those appropriately and everything like that as they're code amendments to zoning. So I've sent the contract for the acting city manager to sign for our comprehensive plan for Verdunity today. We are already starting to work with them, trying to get them data that they need and what have you, but that will be starting and kicking off here in the next month or so too. So I think that was pretty much all I had to cover. So, we'll be working to put a vice chair election probably at the end of September on the agenda. But it also kind of depends on how quickly council moves on the selecting of new appointments for the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. So
It It would be a chair and vice chair election.
It would be.
Okay,
That is,
thank you.
yep. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I will move on to item number 9, adjournment. I move we adjourn. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.